feast doesn't match. So, tonight we're going to be covering the biblical calendar. Yeah, you could throw that up there for now. But yeah, you can go ahead and throw it up there. Yeah, you could throw it up there for the moment. This image is, like I said, I'm going to be referencing it very lightly, but it's just so there. We'll get to some points about it, just to, so you have a. Because I don't know if y'all like me. I learn better when I look at charts and maps and see things. If I just read something, it's like, great, I read it, yay. Until I see it, it helps out a lot. So we'll get to this in a little bit, but just it'll come back on off and on the screen as we go through. But to get into the biblical calendar and what it is, we're going to start with our calendar. In our calendar, if you didn't know, it's not just called a calendar, it's actually the Gregarian calendar. Gregarian calendar. We're going to get a little bit of a quick history on it. I'm not going into the super details of it. This is a quick deal about it. We're going to go through the names of our calendar's months, the names of those, and our days of the week's names, the names of all of those. We're going to touch on those briefly, and then we'll get into the actual biblical calendar. We're going to lay a foundation of, because there's some things about our calendar I bet y'all don't even know. So,
I like to learn.
So that's what we're going to start with. We're going to start with a quick history of the Gregarian calendar. The Gregarian calendar is a calendar used in most of the world. It was introduced in October of 1582 by Pope Gregory XIII as a minor modification. This calendar, the Gregarian calendar, is a minor modification of the Julian calendar. I didn't want to list them all out because there's hundreds of calendars. So I'm stopping at the Julian.
And Julian, is
Jewish, I can't even say it, Julius Caesar. So the Gregarian calendar is a minor modification of the Julian calendar. It reduces the average year from 365.25 days to 365.2425 days. And it's adjusting for the drift in the solar year that the inaccuracy had caused during the intervening centuries. The months we have in this calendar, and everybody knows them, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, and December. It doesn't seem like much of a change, but it was a slight modification in the length of days when they switched to the Gregarian. So mainly it's kind of a Julian calendar is what we're really under, kind of. So we'll go through the origins of the month, the names of the months. All of these names are carryover from the Julian calendar. January is named for the Roman god Janus, protector of gates and doorways. Janus is depicted with two faces, one looking to the past and the other looking to the future. In ancient Rome, times and gates of the temple of Janus were opened in times of war and closed in times of peace. So that's where January comes from the name of a Roman god. February, now they don't all come from Roman gods, and you'll see as we go through them. And you need to be quiet.
Now, the problem was the leap year?
Well, yeah, you're going to see some of that in a second. February. It's from the Latin word February. It means to cleanse. The Roman calendar month of Februaris was named for Febulia, the festival of purification and atonement that took place during this period. That's where February comes from. March. Can anybody guess where it comes from?
I don't know, if we make it through February, we'll more.
Yeah, you're right. March is named for the Roman god of war, Mars.
Just take off the CH and add an S.
Yes. Wow. So this time of the year, this was the time of the year to resume military campaigns and had been interrupted by winter. March was also the time of many festivals, presumably the preparation for the campaigning season, because during the wintertime, military shuts down pretty much. So March is kind of fitting too, that's when armies march. Okay, on to the month of April. It is from the Latin word aprio. That means to open or bud. Because plants begin to grow in this month, in essence, this month was viewed as the spring's renewal. May. It's named for the Roman goddess Maya, who oversaw the growth of plants. Also from the Latin word Maioris, meaning elders, who were celebrated during this month. Maya was considered a nurturer of and earth goddess, which may explain the connection with this springtime month. So that's what? What do we have? 3 so far that are Roman gods? Yes. June, it's also a Roman god, named for the Roman goddess Juno, patroness of marriage and well-being of women. It's also from the Latin juvenis, which means young people. July, it's named to honor the Roman dictator Julius Caesar. That's where July comes from. And also, well, we'll get to that. I'll get to that in a minute. He was from 100 BC to 44 BC was his lifespan. After his death in 46 BC, Julius Caesar was made one of his biggest contributions to history with the help of Sosigenes. He's developed the Julian calendar, the precursor to the Gregarian calendar we use today. August is named to honor the first Roman emperor, the grandnephew of Julius Caesar, Caesar Augustus. He lived from 63 BC to 14 AD. Augustus came from the Latin word Augustus. It's Latin, so meaning venerable, noble, or majestic. September comes from the Latin word septem, meaning 7, because it was the 7th month. Nothing crazy there. Yeah. October. In the ancient Roman calendar, October was the name of the 8th month of the year. Its name comes from octo, in Latin means 8. When the Romans converted to the 12-month calendar, they tried to rename the month after various emperors, but the name October stuck. And like I said, I'm not getting out of the calendars because at one time, Romans had a 10-day week. They had some crazy stuff. Like they said, October was the 8th month.
Right, in this 10th.
Which August is our 8th month. So
Right.
you see the craziness. Well,
September is actually the 9th month.
which it was 7. But the name institute means 7, technically. Yeah, so. November is the Latin word novem. It means 9 because it was the 9th month. And December comes from decem,
Oh, it means
10, because it was the 10th month. So there was like 4 or 5 that were named specifically after Roman gods. 4, I think I said, yeah, 4. And they had 2 to honor Julius Caesar, well, the first Roman dictator and then the first emperor of Caesar Augustus. So that is where the names of our months come from. Now we're going to touch on the days of our weeks, the origins of their names. I will be giving you the English name, which y'all all very well know, but I will be also telling you what it means in Latin and in Saxon.
That's the language of the Saxons.
Anglo-Saxons, which they all, the Anglo-Saxons all stem from the Norwegians and Vikings and things of that nature. So, okay, the first day of the week is Sunday. In Latin, it's Disolus. It means Soul's Day. That's S-O-L, not S-O-U-L.
Is that October?
No, this is Sunday. It means Soul's Day. Sol was an ancient Roman sun god. In Saxon, it's Sonnendag, which is Sun's Day, which the sun, S-U-N, Day of the Sun. Monday, Dies Luna, Luna's Day. Luna was an ancient Roman moon goddess.
Figured.
And Moonendag in Saxon is Moon's Day, or the day of the moon. Tuesday, Dies Martis. It means Mars Day. Mars was an ancient Roman god of war. Right? In Saxon, it was Tewasdag. Don't quote me on these Saxon names. It's Twas Day, and Twa was, or Twi, was the name of the Anglo-Saxon god of war.
So I imagine the first two.
I think it's two in French.
Well, yeah, these have some. Okay, so Wednesday is.
I would imagine the first Tuesday in March would be like super like.
It probably was. It probably was.
Mars.
Yeah, Mars month, Mars Day, right? Yeah, I'm sure they probably had a festival. I'm sure. So we're up to Wednesday now. It's Dies Mercury, Mercury's Day. Mercury was the messenger of the ancient Roman gods and a god of he was a Roman god. In Anglo-Saxon,
I'm sorry, our calendar was that the world may know day.
that was. In Saxon, it's Wadnesdag. Woden was the Anglo-Saxon king of the gods, or you may have heard his name through the Viking mythology of Odin. Woden and Odin. That's Saxon people from Anglo-Saxons were Viking descendants. So then we have Thursday, which is Dradravis, if I'm saying that, or it's probably Jorvis. Jupiter's or Jorv's Day was the king of the ancient Roman gods, the god of sky and thunder. That was Jupiter. And in Saxon, it's Thor's Day, yes, and it's Thor's Day. Thor was the Norse god of thunder, lightning, and storms. We're on to Friday now. Deus Veneris, Venus Day. Venus was the ancient Roman goddess of love. In Saxon, it was Fregendag, Fregna's Day. Fregna was the Norse goddess of home, marriage, and fertility. Saturday. Can anybody guess?
Saturday.
Yay! Ding, ding, ding. It is Deus Saturn, which is Saturn's Day.
I thought it was Saturday Night Live.
No. And Saxon, Saturndag, which is Saturn's Day. Saturn was an ancient Roman god of fun and feastings. So there are the origins of the names of our days of the week.
Every day is for a god.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yep. So, I need a scripture pulled up, please. Now we're on to the biblical calendar to understand how God instituted it. The biblical calendar starts us off in Genesis 1:14.
I don't want to rabbit trail, but do y'all think it's possible where the Bible says that they're going to change the time?
I mean, they kind of already did.
That's already happened.
Oh, they did that. That's been done.
That scripture might have been fulfilled.
Yeah, we'll get into some more of this.
It might have happened.
So Genesis 1:14 says, and of course this is in the creation account in Genesis 1. This is day 5 or day 4, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, and God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years." The biblical calendar is very different from the calendar that we use, and God set the calendar up in such a way that we must depend on Him for it. We'll get into more of that in a moment. I got to jump all over the place. I got like papers upon paper. Now, I'm not reading all of this. I've got sections marked off because it was just easier than having to copy and paste. Actually, it wouldn't let me copy and paste stuff from this document, so I just had to print the whole thing. Okay. So the Hebrew, and I'm going to use biblical calendar, Hebrew calendar, Jewish calendar, God's calendar interchangeably throughout this. So don't get mixed up if I say God's calendar one time and then the Hebrew calendar this time and the Jewish calendar. I'm using that as a synonymous term. So to make another point, our calendar is a solar calendar. It follows the sun, right? The Hebrew is a lunar calendar. We'll get into a little bit more specifics about that in a second. The Hebrew lunar calendar is set differently than the solar calendar. The day begins at sundown. It does not begin at midnight. This will take some time to wrap your head around because it will throw you off constantly. I'm going to do some little descriptions in a minute, but so the climactic day of the week in the Hebrew calendar, can anybody guess? Shabbat. It is Shabbat, or as in English you would say, Sabbath. It's the seventh day of the week. The moon and its phases in the night are a timepiece for months. We read that. God said he's going to put lights in the heavens for days, months, times, and seasons and all these things, right? Yeah, it's still up there. Thank you. It's a timepiece for the months. The seasons of the year are marked with special festivals that God instituted, and in Hebrew you call them the Moedim. They mean appointed times. Even the years are numbered. Every seventh year is a Shemitah, or a sabbatical year. Just as you have a Sabbath day, you have a Sabbath year. And then when you have 49 of those Sabbath years, you have a Yovel, which is a Jubilee.
We just entered a Shemitah.
A Shemitah we did. It started this September. It is a sabbatical year. And I'll just kind of jumped ahead of myself as I usually do. After the seventh year cycle, after 7 cycles of Shemitah, there's the Yovel, which is a Jubilee year. Actually, for the sabbatical year, go to Leviticus 25, starting in verse 2. If you didn't guess, we're going to be in the Old Testament a lot. Okay, Leviticus, we're going to be going through verse 5. Okay, so speaking to the children of Israel, and say unto them, when ye come into the land which I give you, then shall the land keep the Sabbath unto the Lord. So God gave Moses to give to the children of Israel in their wandering in the wilderness. They were not to keep this yet. It says when they come into the land. This was a command to be kept in the future. But it specifically says that the land shall keep a Sabbath. Next verse. Yes. 6 years thou shalt sow thy field, 6 years thou shalt prune thy vineyards, and gather the fruit thereof. But in the 7th year shall be a Sabbath rest unto the land, a Sabbath for the Lord. Thou shalt neither sow thy fields or prune thy vineyards. And that which groweth of its own accord of thy harvest thou shalt not reap, neither gather the grapes of thy vine undressed, for it is a year of rest unto the land. And actually, science nowadays tells us that the land needs to rest. But nowadays we've kind of, because if you constantly plant and constantly farm, the soil loses all its nutrition and it's no good for nothing. Yep, that's exactly it. No, sir. We're going to talk about the Jubilee briefly. I'm not diving a lot into the Shemitah or the Jubilee because that could be a whole nother deal in itself. Just go to verse 8. Jump down a few verses to verse 8. And we're going to be going through 17 on this one. Now we're going to be talking about the Jubilee, in Hebrew, Yovel. And thou shalt number 7 Sabbath years unto thee, 7 times 7, and the space of 7 Sabbaths of years shall be unto thee 49 years, or 49 years worth. That's seven Shemitahs. Next. And thou shalt cause the trumpet of the Jubilee to sound in the 10th day of the 7th month. In the day of atonement, thou shalt make the trumpet sound throughout all the land. And thou shalt hallow the 50th year, and proclaim liberty throughout the land and to its inhabitants. And they shall be a jubilee unto you, and ye shall return every man unto his possession. and ye shall return every man unto his family. Now, okay, they're getting into people who were servants at the time. So if you had a servant in the 50th year, you turned him. He used to go free. If he wanted to stay, there's specific things that the Bible says that he could stay with you if it was of his own will, his own free will, and all that. But if he wanted to leave and to go back to his own stuff, he could. Things were to be returned. Next. The Jubilee shall that 50th year be unto you. Thou shalt not sow, neither reap that which groweth of itself in it, nor gather the grapes of it of thy vine undressed. For it is a Jubilee, and it shall be holy unto you, and ye shall eat the increase thereof out of the field. In the year of this Jubilee, ye shall return every man unto his possession. And if thou sell aught unto thy neighbor, or buyest aught of thy neighbor's hand, ye shall not oppress one another. According to the number of years after the Jubilee, thou shalt buy of thy neighbor, and according unto the number of years of the fruit of his, he shall sell unto thee. Two more. And according to the multiple of years, thou shalt increase the price thereof. According to the fewness of the years, thou shalt diminish the price thereof. Okay, what they're getting into, within that, it sounds a little confusing. If you just started out in the 49-year count, like if it was year one after the Jubilee, you could charge more for your land because you still had many years to go for that person to pay you back for it. If it was almost time for the Jubilee, though, did I say that right? No, according to the number of years diminish it. Yeah, in the fewness of years. So if you had little years left, you couldn't sell it for as much because the guy couldn't pay you back in time.
Right.
It had to be returnable. It had to be, so you wouldn't.
Because debt would be forgiven.
Right. So they wanted to do it so things would be everything would be set and straight.
Right.
And, no, I'm not going to get into that. Never mind. Let me step back from that one.
The further away from Jubilee, the higher the price
Right.
value, the higher the value.
Right.
But the closer to Jubilee, the lower the price.
Right. So it'd be easier to pay off. Now, I'll say this is that throughout the years, they figured out ways to,
Cheat the system.
yes,
Unfortunately.
unfortunately they did. They would basically, I forget, I'd have to go back and look, but I did read a little article on it where they would basically sell it to a Gentile so that they are they're not breaking the law and that they could still collect after the Jubilee. So I don't agree with that. But yeah, so
But weren't there laws against selling the land to Gentiles?
well, it's not just land, it's other things too, yeah. Well, yes, my brother, way?
I think it's like it's kind of prorated.
Yeah, that's how it's mentioned right there. It's like a prorate. Essentially, what is this? So, for according to the number of years of the fruits, doeth he sell unto 17.
No, unto thee.
Unto thee. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No, it's a slide breakup. That's great.
Okay. And ye shall not therefore oppress one another, but ye shall fear the Lord thy God, for I am the Lord your God. So it's about not oppressing people, and so relying on God to supply your needs in those times, and to let the land rest because God's smarter than us. Okay. The Hebrew calendar is a lunar calendar, but it's got some solar calendar aspects to it. So you might describe it as a lunar solar calendar, the easiest way to say it. Since every lunar cycle runs roughly 29.5 days, the Jewish calendar only comes out to 354 days compared to a 365-day solar calendar. So that's kind of a big offset. It's like, what, 21 days.
But at that rate, compared to the two, over time, the dates will be so far apart.
And
years
they
apart.
got a spot for that. Watch.
Okay.
Yeah, it does. It gets completely out of whack.
Yeah.
Really quick. So to ensure that the festivals would occur at the proper seasons, having Passover in springtime and Sukkot in the fall, an extra month is added, a whole month.
Oh, wow.
It is added every 2 to 3 years to offset the 11-day lag per solar calendar. And in this way, the lunar calendar is synchronized with the solar of the agricultural seasons.
An entire month, that's how far off it goes in how many years? What, 3 years is it?
It's 2 to 3 years.
3 years.
Now, there are some times that the Hebrew calendar and our calendar line up. It happened a few years back where it lines up, where like Passover is.
2020.
Yeah, there's certain things that lined up.
How
No, for us, for theirs is like every 2 to 3, because they're off 21 days every
They
year.
have a leap month.
Yeah, they have an entire leap month.
We have a leap.
They have a 13th month that gets added in.
That's because our February is normally 28 days.
Yeah, we get 1 day.
1 day extra every 4 years.
Every 4 years?
Yeah.
1 day extra in February. 28.
Bless you.
Okay, so a Hebrew day. Let's talk about that since I kind of mentioned it goes from sundown to sundown.
Yom.
Yom. The Hebrew word for day is yom.
I just wanted some extra points.
You get 2.
2 points.
But let me say this, we just started a Shemitah year, so that means for Israel this year, they're required to not grow anything and trust the Lord. So in the middle of an economic collapse, they're not allowed to grow any food or anything. They're gonna have to trust God completely. for
Right.
supply.
That's true.
But also, they believe that that only applies to the physical land of Israel
Right.
and isn't applied outside
Yeah.
of the Jew or to Gentiles.
Because specifically it says when you go into the land, God says when you go into the land, you're to keep this commandment about giving the Sabbath year. And then he goes on to telling, because you have to have the Sabbath.
The promised land, which is.
But it is good practice. for
Sure.
any
Oh,
land.
no. Now I say that by science, it's proven that if you continuously farm a land, you deplete all nutrients out of it. You have to give it a rest.
And I think the reason that God said not to worry about it until they got into the land is because they were moving. So the
Yeah,
land
oh, yeah,
would-
it-
they would plant and move.
Yeah, they did. It wasn't on them as they travel because it wouldn't do any good.
Yeah,
But I think it stands for all of us.
yeah, it does.
For
You need to let the land rest for sure. The Hebrew day is Yom. It begins at sundown. It goes from sundown to sundown. Ours, we go from midnight to midnight, right? That's when our days go. The way that they determine this now, of course, you can determine this by a lot of math nowadays. But back in the day, when 3 stars become visible in the sky, the rabbis reasoned that the day begins at sunset, based on the description of God's activity in creation. And the evening and morning were the first day as an example. He mentioned that. He started with what? The evening. He didn't start with the morning.
Right.
It's the evening. The evening is sometimes defined as late afternoon, which begins around 3 p.m. to sundown. So the way they would say a new day, oh, you got 3 stars, and you can visibly see 3 stars. It's the next day. Now, granted, of course, you got stuff with clouds and all this other stuff that can get in the way. But so since the Jewish day begins at sundown, you must remember, this is the one thing that will throw everything off. You must remember that Jewish holidays actually begin the night before the day listed on the calendar. So,
Yeah, because Saturday begins Friday night at 6. Right?
yes.
Yep.
So, if you have, I don't know if I'm going to need to draw all this out, but
begin 50 minutes ago.
You're right.
Wow.
right.
We are Thursday on the court.
1, 2, 3,
As soon as you can see the 3 stars, it's
6, 7.
6
Actually,
6 p.m. to the next 6 p.m.
that's the easiest way to do it. Yeah. So just as an example, and I'm going to use, so this is the 21st, 22nd. We're the 22nd, right? Okay. 23rd, 24th,
You say it this way, Jews are sunset, sunrise, sunset, one day. Ours is sunrise, sunset, one day.
So, okay, today, the 21st, yesterday, was the first day of Sukkot. And we'll get it, I can't, okay? But it started over here at 6 p.m. or sundown. Technically, if you want to get a little bit more, it started at 10 a.m. in Jerusalem. So, that's what will throw people out. I mean, you can look at it on the calendar, oh, Sukkot's today. Oh, but wait, that was yesterday at 6 p.m.
Well, wait, it doesn't follow our 6, it follows their 6.
That's why I said it's at 10 a.m. over there. They're 8 hours ahead of us.
Right, but
Yeah.
it would be 6 p.m. for them, and then it would shift our 6 p.m. It's not following our 6 p.m., it's following their 6
Now, I say 6 p.m. for just our time zone.
Yeah,
Right, and
just
it would be
follow,
10
no,
out
you
there.
keep your own time zone.
Yeah, if you wanted to follow them, like I said, you would have to rewind 8 hours and start at 10 a.m. to correspond that.
Yeah, so us following them, it would be technically 10 a.m. our time.
Right.
For their
Yes.
10, 'cause
Yes.
Because I would follow
They're
them.
already there. Yeah, at 10 a.m. on our day, they're sundown over there.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think like, maybe last year, whatever, but since we had church at 6 o'clock our time, when we did the, thing in the back of the feast,
Yeah.
it was actually, it lined up, so it's there.
Yeah, it was the Rosh Hashanah dinner we did. We thought we were a day ahead, but we were doing it exactly at the time that they were doing it because of the time.
Because of the time difference, yeah.
It's 8 hours ahead.
So, and the same thing, you have Shabbat over here. It begins Friday night, technically, at 6 p.m. So, in Israel, you will see a mad rush to get things done before 6 because everything shuts down. If you didn't get your bread ready, you out of luck, buddy. Things shut down from sundown to sundown.
No cars on the road.
Especially, they were mentioning on Yom Kippur, they said that's one of the craziest things. You go over there, there's literally not a car on the road on Yom Kippur. He said the kids can go out and play in the streets. It's zero cars. The entire country shuts down.
I remember doing a study with Tom, they don't even allow elevators to work.
Oh, they shut everything down.
The loaders are.
So do you mean you cannot fish on Shabbat? That shows.
And this is another thing.
They actually shut down the trains, the transit.
Yeah, everything shuts down. This is another interesting thing, especially when it comes to the Feast of Trumpets. Sometimes Hebrew holidays are given 2 days on our calendar. Most Jewish calendars do not indicate the previous night as part of the holiday. Observance of the holiday always begins the night before. Like I said, if you see this in a calendar, you'll see Sukkot begins on the 21st, and it doesn't say, hey, it began 6 o'clock the day before. It doesn't say that. You just got to know it. But what I was getting at about the 2-day thing is for the Feast of Trumpets, it is given 2 days. Like you'll see it on some calendars, it'll say it's only 1 day, really. And we'll get to that. It only says 1 day in the Bible. But they have given a traditional 2nd day because when they would sound the shofar, it took a while for people to know what was going on. If they sounded them in Jerusalem, somebody up in the northern Galilee didn't get the message yet, so they gave it an extra day, and it's for everybody else so that it's covered. It's just kind of it's not biblical to have an extra day for it, but it's just to help cover that. So the Jewish week, it is called a Shavah, and it begins on Sunday and ends on Shabbat. The first day of the Jewish calendar, of course they don't call it Sunday, they call it Yom Roshin. It means the first day. And then it has Yom Shini. Guess what that means? Yeah. And Yom Shlishi.
Third day.
Yeah. Yom Revi'i. Yom Chamishi. And Yom Shishi. And then you have Shabbat. So they literally just numbered their days. They don't have all these Roman gods in their calendar thing.
Yeah.
It's just, hey, it's day 1.
You just say the name.
Yeah, you just said it.
Yeah. Say third day again?
Third day is Yom Shlishi.
Yom Shishi.
Shlishi.
Shlishi. Yom
I was sick saying that.
Yeah.
It takes a little, yeah.
A little practice.
Okay. Yeah. So the duration of a Hebrew month, or you would call a month, is a chodesh, is measured by the amount of time it takes for the moon to go through a lunar cycle, which is about 29.5 days. So you start with the new moon, Rosh Chodesh, new moon or head moon. It goes through the waxing process. When you get to a full moon, that is round about middle of the Hebrew month. So if you see full moon, you know it's the middle of their Hebrew month. That does not necessarily line up to our middle of the month.
Right.
And when you get to the old moon, or it's waning out, it'll go back to the new moon, which is basically no moon. Or they say the new moon is when you can barely see a sliver. So the Rosh Chodesh is the appearance of a new moon, which is called the head of the month, Rosh Chodesh. 12 Chodeshim makes a Shana. So that's 12 months makes a year, right?
Right.
Now we'll get to the leap year thing.
She gives a study guide with these names.
Like I said, I was trying to copy and paste this, but this particular article would not let me copy and paste. So I had to print the whole thing and make marks all over it. We're going to talk about a lunar leap year. Since the solar calendar is 365 days long, but a moon year is only 354 days long, an extra month is added to the Hebrew calendar every 2 to 3 years. The formula is a bit esoteric, but every 19 years, there are 7 leap years. The 3rd, the 6th, the 8th, the 11th, the 14th, the 17th, and the 19th years are all leap years. So in a leap year, a 13th month is added. Pull that calendar back up, please. So 12th month, we're going to call it what they call it for the sake of time, Adar. In the leap year, they add the 13th month, and they call it Adar Sheni, or Adar 2. So they add a whole nother month during those leap years to account for the day loss.
So Adar is last half of February and beginning half of March.
Yeah, more or less.
Plus or minus.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So the Jewish year is cyclical with seasonal holidays and festivals. The names of the month of the Jewish calendar were adopted during the time of Ezra the scribe after the return of the Babylonian exile. These names, I think you will see these names in the Bible, some of them. But they are not the ones that started the calendar. And actually, we'll only know of 4 that are pre-Babylonian exile. These are from their time in Babylon. This influenced them. As you made mention, Brother Wayne, Tammuz is a Babylonian god. And yet it's their name of their 4th month. So,
Just as we have guys in our months, nothing to do with us.
right,
it's theirs.
right. Same thing. They were influenced 70 years of being somewhere. They influenced them. But we'll talk about the 4 in a moment. So the first month they have is Nisan. And I'm just going to go through them quickly, and I got to, this is what I want to reference. Here we go.
That is a biblical one. That is.
No, that is not. It is in the Bible, but it's all post-Babylonian exile. So you have Nisan. In the meaning of the Babylonian month means their flight, which it does fit with Exodus. It does. The theme of the month, the Babylonian is redemption. The biblical is miracles. Now, this is one that we do have a biblical name for, and it is Aviv. Aviv means the ripening. It's actually, it refers to the state of a growth process of barley, of grain. The biblical feasts that happen in Aviv are Pesach, which is Passover, Hag HaMatzah, which is leavened bread, and Yom Habdikorim, which is the Feast of First Fruits. Those all happen in Aviv. The second month, the Babylonian, is Ayar, I think that's how you say that. So the Babylonian meaning is healing. The theme of the month is introspection. That's the Babylonian meaning. And the biblical, I guess that word in Hebrew means self-improvement. This is another one we actually have a biblical month for, and it is Zev. It means splendor or radiance.
Is it the bottom half?
No.
Oh,
Yeah, it is.
yes.
This name is not going to be on there.
Oh,
The four biblical names are not going to be on there. The third month is Savin, which the meaning in Babylonian is bright or their covering. And in the biblical theme of it is the giving of the Torah. And further on, it becomes Pentecost. We do not have a biblical reference to this name. So we have to stick with that Babylonian one. So and then we have Tammuz, which is the fourth month. And it means hidden, given of the vine, and it's a Phoenician deity. Phoenician deity that all translates across Syria through Babylon and all that. The theme of the month is sin of the golden calf. Yeah. So there's no biblical record of a name pre-Babylonian exile for that one.
Well, and then it's kind of a little bit more fitting that it's named after a Babylonian
Right.
god because they're remembering the sin of the golden calf.
Right.
And honoring when they messed up to honor those gods.
Then we have the fifth month, which is Av, which in Hebrew means father. And we do not have a pre-Babylonian name for it. Which, I mean, that's where they get that from. So, sixth month is Elul. In the Babylonian month, it's a vain thing, a nothingness. The theme is repentance. We do not have a pre-Babylonian name. The seventh month in the Babylonian name is Tishri, which is beginning from Rashit, which the first book of the Bible is Bereshit. It's actually not Genesis, but it means in the beginning. And it comes from Rashit, which means beginning. It's the month of the strong and the month of ancients, which is the theme of it there. We do have a pre-Babylonian name for this, and it's Etanim. It means ever-flowing stream, and we have 3 fall festivals in this month. We have Yom Teruah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot. The 8th month is Keshvan, and the theme is the flood of Noah. And we do have a pre-Babylonian name, and it's Bul, B-U-L, Bul. And it means to produce. I think it is. You have to go back. It does list months out. Well, it'll say the name of the month. I mean the number of the month. It doesn't give a name. Yes.
I would say the scriptures, Kings 6:38 actually names the word bull.
Bull. Yeah. And it means to produce because in this time, that's when the raining season happens over there. Then we have the ninth month, which is Kislev, and the meaning of that is security or trust. The theme there is restful sleep, which we do not have a pre-Babylonian. We actually do not have any more pre-Babylonian names for any of these other ones. So you have the 10th month is Tevet. It means good. It comes from the word Tov, which in Hebrew that means good. And the theme there is divine grace. We don't have a pre-Babylonian name. Shevet, the meaning is unknown. They're not sure. The 12th month is Adar, which means strength. And you have Adar 2, which is strength 2. So, double strength. Yeah. So those are the months. Like I said, we're going to quickly talk about 4 Jewish New Years. It says, you might be surprised to discover that by the time the Mishnah was compiled, around 200 AD, that's a bunch of teachings from sages and rabbis. The sages had identified 4 separate New Year dates of the lunar solar year, of every lunar solar year. The modern Jewish calendar was ratified by Hillel the Elder in the 3rd century. You have Nisan, or in the biblical term, Aviv. It is called the Rosh Hadashim, which is it marks the head of the months. For Exodus, and it starts when they left from Exodus. It's a month when they left from on the Exodus. It is the Exodus from Egypt and the beginning of the Jewish year and their history. As such, it represents the start of the biblical year for counting of the festivals. And then you have Elul 1, which marks the start of the year from the viewpoint of tithing cattle to the temple for sacrifice. Well, since the temple was destroyed in 70 A.D., later the sages decreed that this date should mark the time of preparation for repentance before Rosh Hashanah. The third is Tishri 1, or we do have a biblical name, and that is Etanim 1. It was originally associated with the agricultural Feast of the Ingathering, which is another name for Sukkot. It could be called Sukkot. It could be called Feast of Tabernacles, Feast of Booths, Feast of Ingathering. There's a couple of names that are all synonymous with that one feast. And the last one is Shavuot, which we don't have another biblical name for that one. Shavuot 15. It marks the tithing of the harvest that farmers would pledge to the priests of Israel during those times. Like some of these, some of these are traditional kind of things. The only ones we really know of is like Nisan and all that, and for the Feast of Ingathering on there. Oh wait, yeah, I wanted to read this one other part. So in practical terms, however, there are two New Years. First is it occurs 2 weeks before Passover on Nisan or Aviv 1, and the second occurs 10 days before Yom Kippur on Tishri 1 or Atonements 1. So that's the really two that the other ones are kind of not as important, I guess you could say. So you have a dual aspect calendar. We're about to get into all of the festivals in a second, feasts. So in this connection, notice that the calendar is divided into two parts, exactly 6 lunar months each divided. You could bring that guy up fully.
Full version.
Yeah, full version. Exactly 6 months, 6 lunar months, both of which center around redemptive rituals and ends with a harvest. The first half of this divine calendar begins on Rosh Hadashim, or Nisan 1. That's Exodus 12:2. We'll get into some of that. You ain't got to go there right now. We'll get into all that in a minute. Which is followed by the instructions to select the Passover lamb on the 10th day of the first month, and it's to be slaughtered on the late afternoon of the 14th day. It shall be eaten on the 15th. The Passover itself initiated the 7-day period of unleavened bread, wherein no leaven was to be consumed. On an agricultural level, the Passover represents spring and the season of the first fruit harvests, and so on. On the other side of the calendar, because you can see this right here, dividing here would be spring, or the first half of the year, and you have all your festivals, starting with something that's a ritual down to a harvest, which is, they did harvest here, but this is a harvest also, Pentecost. Same thing happens on the fall side of the calendar. We have Rosh Hashanah, which I'll get into the name of that. That's an interesting thing there, because let me not jump ahead. It marks the second half of the year, and it is followed by Yom Kippur 10 days later on the 10th day of Tishri, or the 10th of the 7th month, and then it is followed by a week-long festival of Sukkot, which occurs from the 15th through the 22nd of the 7th month. On an agricultural level, Sukkot represents the reaping of the fall harvest at the end of the year. In other words, in some of the respects of the fall holidays mirror those of the spring of the calendar itself. And indeed, both sides of the calendar represent different aspects of God's redemptive plan. In the spring holidays, they represent the first advent of Jesus, or Yeshua. Him as the suffering servant, the Lamb of God, the Messiah ben Yosef, or the son of Joseph. Whereas the fall holidays represent his second advent, him as Jesus as the conquering Lord, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, and Messiah ben David, or the son of David. Okay, so here's a fun fact. Yeah, you got to do it. Old time's sake. Fun fact. Let's see if you can do it quick.
Oh no, where is it at? Let's see.
I need a drink of water anyway, so go ahead.
Tabernacle.
He's lost everything. Computer's been redone.
No, that's not why.
It's deep off in another folder. That's where it's at.
Yeah, it's probably.
It's okay.
It's archived on our.
It's fine. Here's a fun fact. So what is the true Jewish year? Some have said that the Jewish year counts from creation, but excludes various years of captivity, while rabbinic traditions state that there are about 165 missing years, from the date of the destruction of the first temple to the date of the destruction of the second temple. Others suggest that there are some missing years in the Hebrew calendar due to the corruption in the accounting of the years of the Persian monarchies. Persia is also Babylon, so not to be like, oh, why Persia? Well, same people, basically. And that these years were suppressed in order to disguise the fact that Daniel's prophecy of the 70 weeks pointed to Yeshua as the true Mashiach, or Messiah of Israel. Talking about the Orthodox who don't believe that Jesus was the Messiah, and they have done things to hide stuff from the people. In short, educated uncertainty exists regarding the exact year we are living in since creation. So, there are some things that could have been lost over time, especially with captivities and all this. I'm sure the scribes weren't too worried about keeping track of the day whenever they had an army chasing them down, ready to kill them. I wouldn't have been like, well, hang on, guys, let me mark this day down. Don't shoot me just yet. Hang on. So, now, how do you determine the start of the biblical year? It is not as, let me say this, it started out not mathematical. It started out by God dictating when the year starts.
It went by the crops.
Yes. So a biblical year begins on the first new moon after the barley in Israel reaches the stage of ripeness called Aviv. Oh, that's the name of the first month, actually. The period between 1 year and the next is either 12 or 13 lunar months, depending on those leap years. Because of this, it was important to check the barley crop at the end of the 12th month. If the barley is Aviv at this time, then the following new moon is Chodesh HaAviv, the new moon of the Aviv. If the barley, you found it. If the barley is still immature, they must wait another month, and they would check the barley again at the end of the 13th month. It all depended, because God brings the harvest and the increase. So it depended on Him. So barley, which is in the state of Aviv, has three characteristics. It is brittle enough to be destroyed by hail, and has begun to lighten in color. It's not dark. And that's one of the reasons why you read in the plagues of Egypt how it says when the hail fell that the barley crop was destroyed, because it was Aviv. It was brittle. It could be destroyed easily. But it also reads that the wheat and all that was still very new and very green. It wasn't destroyed. The seed, the second little characteristic is the seeds have produced enough dry material so that it may be eaten parched.
And that's why you also know that the first Passover unleavened breads would have actually been made of barley.
Yeah.
It was too soon to be wheat.
Wheat is Shavuot, which is Pentecost.
Right.
A month or so later, yeah.
Jesus is represented by the barley harvest because it's the first harvest, and the bread represented Jesus.
Yep. The third characteristic is it was developed enough so that it will be harvest ready in 2 to 3 weeks. So when they check it, if it's in these characteristics, it's got to be enough in a state to where in 3 weeks, when unleavened bread happens and the Feast of First Fruits, they can take some of that and participate in that feast. The month of Aviv is the month which commences after the barley has reached the stages of Aviv. 2 to 3 weeks after the beginning of the first month of barley has been moved beyond the stage of Aviv and is ready to be brought as a wave sheaf offering. You will read that in the Bible in Leviticus and all that, talking about a wave offering and all that. The wave sheaf offering is a sacrifice brought from the first stalks cut in the harvest and is brought on the Sunday which falls out during Passover, or it's the Feast of Unleavened Bread, because that kind of, they'll usually use Passover as a synonymous term to encompass Passover, first fruits, and unleavened bread. They use it kind of synonymously there. Go to Leviticus 23, verse 10.
I think maybe that God did it that way because the seasons depended on God, but it depended on whether or not the harvest tarried, to kind of maybe keep the point in mind that Jesus' return is not a set time frame, but it depends on when the harvest is.
Right.
God, the times and the seasons are not
Right.
set in stone. God will decree it according to the readiness of the harvest.
Yes. So speak unto the children of Israel and say unto them, when ye come into the land which I give unto you, ye shall reap the harvest thereof. Then ye shall bring a sheaf of first fruits of your harvest unto the priest. And he shall wave them before the Lord to be accepted of you. And the morrow after the Sabbath, the priest shall wave it. That's all we got there. So that's talking about, that's first fruits.
Is that why when we did like the Passover, like we did some research about it, do they still do some kind of like little thing and the kids do it or something like that?
I think so, yeah.
We talked about that, the little palm, what is it called?
That's, no, you're talking about Sukkot.
That's what it is, Sukkot?
Sukkot, yeah, they take because it tells you, we'll read it though, and it tells you to take the different branches and you're to wave them. You could think of it as a pom-pom. It is a joyous time to celebrate. That's what it's about. That's the easy way I can describe it to people who, it's a pom-pom. Think of a cheerleader. So from this, it is clear that the barley, which was Aviv, at the beginning of the month, has become harvest ready 15 to 21 days later. Therefore, the month of Aviv cannot begin unless the barley has reached the stage where it is harvest ready within 2 to 3 weeks. So it's all dependent on that stage of Aviv. That's when you see it, you'll know that within 2 weeks it'll be ready. And they actually still have people who go and look for the Aviv barley in Israel. They look for it. Now they keep a calendar, but it may not line up with the mathematically determined Hebrew calendar. So it started out as a God-given calendar. You based it all off of the Aviv barley, right? That God, He's going to determine when it has. Did it have enough rain yet and all this stuff? So it all depended on Him. Then it got to a blend of waiting on the Aviv and a little bit of mathematics, because you could start determining things. I mean, it's, if you watch the moon, you can calculate things. And nowadays, it's pure calculation.
But according to God's calendar, everything started when the barley was ready for harvest.
Right. Well, when you would see it, and you would know within 2 weeks that it would be that it would be ready for unleavened bread, for Passover, basically.
Bread.
Yeah.
So when the barley can be turned into the Passover bread, that's when everything starts. Because Jesus was represented in the Passover bread made from harvest, and that's when our new calendar started. That's when everything started. The new age started.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, and that barley must be harvest ready. I think I read this. Yeah. No, it must be harvest ready within 2 to 3 weeks, unto the month of Aviv. Is also clear from Deuteronomy 16:9. You can go there quickly, please. It states the following. Yes, Deuteronomy 16, verse 9. 7 weeks shalt thou number unto thee, beginning to number the 7 weeks from such time as thou beginnest to put the sickle to the corn. Or it's not specifically talking about corn. It's talking about the corn of wheat. Grain. And what it's referring to here is it's talking specifically about number 7 weeks when you begin to put the sickle to it, which goes back to first fruits, because this is actually talking about Shavuot or Pentecost. We'll get to that a little bit. So from Leviticus 23:15, we know that the 7 weeks between Passover and Pentecost begin on the day of the wave sheaf offering, which is first fruits. And I'll just read this real quick. And it states that you shall count. Well, we just read it actually. Yeah, you shall count from the morrow after the Sabbath, from the day that you begin the sheaf offering, and complete 7 Sabbaths. When you go from Passover to Shavuot, Pentecost, there has to be 7 Sabbaths. And then the 50th day is Pentecost. Kind of like 7 Shemitahs equals a Jubilee. The 50th, right? So therefore, the sickle commences on the standing grain, when that happens, on the Sunday during the Passover, or the Feast of Unleavened Bread, after the beginning of the month, if the barley is not developed enough, you got to wait a whole other month. You got to wait till the next new moon. So they would literally add another month in if the barley wasn't ready, because it all depended on that harvest. That's when everything kicked off. So it should be noted that not all barley ripens in the land of Israel at the same time. The wave sheaf offering is a national sacrifice brought from the first fields to become harvest ready. However, the first fruit offering brought by individual farmers can vary in ripeness anywhere from Aviv, parched in fire, to fully ripened grain, which may be brought crushed or coarsely ground. This is what is meant in Leviticus 2:14. Let's go there. So you got to remember, the Sambais at the top of Israel might not have made it in time. So there's all kind of things that they had to, they had ways of getting them there to be able to make their right offerings and all that stuff. Leviticus 2:14.
Everything God does is to make you keep seeking Him. Everything we do is to make it easier so we don't have to.
And if thou offer a grain offering of thy first fruits unto the Lord, thou shalt offer a grain offering of the first fruits, green ears of corn dried by fire, even corn beaten out of its full ears. Now, it's not talking about corn.
Well,
In another
one would easily not know that.
In another translation,
It'd be kernel.
it would say it like this. And when you bring your first offerings to Jehovah God, you shall bring the first fruit offerings of Aviv parched in fire, or crushed caramel. Now wait, it's not talking about caramel like that. It's another word, and it means that word needs to be translated into crushed, something that's crushed or something that's coarsely ground. And this talk, huh? So the entire calendar is completely dependent on God. He is the one that brings the rain. Isaiah 30:23, please. We're about to get to the
So if you pray
feast.
enough, He'll bring the rain, and it can hasten the season.
Yeah. Isaiah 30:23. Then he shall give the rain of thy seed, and thou shalt sow the ground withal, and the bread of thy increase of the earth, and it shall be fat and plenteous. And in that day shall thy cattle feed in large pastures. He doesn't bring the rain, you ain't getting no harvest. You ain't getting grass, you ain't getting nothing.
Right.
He also brings the increase. 1 Corinthians 3:7.
So the church needs to pray for God to bring the rain so we can hasten the coming of the Lord.
Latter rain.
1 Corinthians?
Oh, snap.
1 Corinthians 3:7. 3:7. So then neither he that planteth anything, neither he that watereth, but it is God that giveth the increase. And this brings us to the Moedim, the appointed times, or if you want to call them the feasts, which God gave for a remembrance and a teaching tool to be passed down to future generations to learn of God's redemptive plan. All of these feasts point to the plan of salvation that God has for the world. Do you want me to start this? Because
Long section.
I mean,
We can continue it to next week if it's too much.
I don't know if it will be. Once I start going, it may go.
Jacob, you said about telling the kids about, you just mentioned.
Yeah, about teaching your.
Yeah, in Exodus 12, 26, and it shall come to pass when your children shall say unto you, what mean ye by their service? So it actually
Yep.
biblically tells you
Yep.
to tell your children.
Yep. Teach them.
Yeah.
And it's all for that. I think we can do it. It's going to be a little bit long, but once I start going through it, it'll go kind of quick, I think. Okay. So what's the first Moedim? What's the first appointed time?
When he came to
What's the first one?
Feast of Unleavened Bread.
Huh? No. It's actually the Shabbat.
oh,
God instituted that all the way back in Genesis.
Oh, you mean the first one instituted? We thought calendar was.
Oh, I mean, if you wanted, you could think that, but even Shabbats happen every week.
That's true.
So you can't get away from that one.
that's true.
And that's mentioned in Exodus chapter 20. It mentions when God rested on the seventh day in Genesis, right? He took that the seventh day was a day of rest. But in Exodus chapter 20, verse 8, we go there real quick.
I just had a revelation really fast. If we are to bow down to it's on the Saturday crowd
Oh yeah.
for our service times,
Mhm.
we couldn't drive to church. I mean, if you could take
Oh,
it,
well,
that
I mean, yeah,
sure,
yeah.
Saturday, great, but now we can't go to church. I mean, how far do you want to take it? So,
Exodus 20, verse 8.
gotcha.
What's the main theme of Exodus 20? Quick, go.
Dude, I know it.
Got it right. 10 Commandments.
Yep.
He says, oh, well, I know.
But not because of that.
I know.
I literally memorized that it was Exodus 20.
Exodus 20 is all about the 10 Commandments.
Which verse?
Exodus 20, verse 8. We're going to read through 11.
Yeah.
So, remember the Sabbath day and to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath unto the Lord thy God, and in it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy sons, nor thy daughters, nor thy manservants, nor thy maidservants, nor thy cattle, nor thy strangers, that is within thy gates. For 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. So it was instituted all the way back in Genesis. On to the spring feast, though. We start with Passover or Pesach. It literally means to skip, omit, and you could say Passover, because if you skip, you. Exodus 12. We're going to be getting a lot of scripture right here. Exodus 12, starting in verse 3. Speaking unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, in the 10th day of this month, they shall take unto them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house. Go through verse 10. Okay, sorry. And if the household be too little for a lamb, let him and his neighbor next to his house take it according to the number of the souls. Every man according to his eating shall make your count for the lamb. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. Ye shall take it from the sheep or from the goats. Ye shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month, and the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it at evening. And ye shall take the blood and strike it on the two side posts and the upper post of the house, wherein they shall eat it. And they shall eat the flesh in the night, roast with fire, and unleavened bread with bitter herbs they shall eat it. Eat not of it raw, nor sodden with water, but roast with fire, his head with his legs, and his purtenance thereof.
His pertinence guts too?
Yeah.
I thought so.
All the entrails.
Yeah.
And ye shall let nothing of it remain until the morning, and that which remaineth of it until morning ye shall burn with fire. So that is talking about Passover, when God told Moses what to do. This was fulfilled.
Yes.
We could probably talk about the fulfillment of it until next week, but I'm going to go quickly over some highlights. It was fulfilled through the Messiah's crucifixion. Jesus rode into Jerusalem on a donkey on the 10th day of Aviv. Same day, they tell you to select a lamb for yourself and take it into your house.
Nice.
And it was to be spotless, of course, which we know that in, go ahead and go there, Luke 19:28. I'm going to jump around there. Let me see. I'm going to go through it in mine because this is a big chunk I put in here, but I'm going to trim it up. 19:28.
I got a trimmer for us, brother. We like it.
Okay. And when he had thus spoken, he went before, ascending up to Jerusalem. Fun fact: if you notice reading your Bible, it'll always say going up to Jerusalem. You never go down to Jerusalem. Yeah, you just know it's an interesting thing. It'll always say going up to Jerusalem. You always go up to Jerusalem. Verse 29. And it came to pass when he was come nigh to Bethphage and Bethany, at the mount called the Mount of Olives, he sent two of his disciples and said, Go into the village over against you, in the which at your entering you shall find a colt tied thereof that a man never sat on. Loose him and bring him thither. And he asked the man, if any man ask you, Why do you loose him? Thus shall ye say unto him, Because the Lord hath need of him. And they that were sent went their way, and found even as he had said unto them. And as they loosened the colt, the owner of it said unto them, Why loose ye the colt? And he said, The Lord hath need of him. And he brought him unto Jesus, and they cast his garments upon the colt, and there set Jesus thereon. And he went, and as he went, they spread their clothes in the way. And when he was come nigh, even now at the descent of the Mount of Olives, the whole multitude of disciples began to rejoice and praise God with a loud voice for all of the mighty works that they had seen, saying, Blessed is the King who cometh in the name of the Lord, peace in heaven and glory in the highest. Some of the Pharisees from among the multitude, said unto him, Master, rebuke thy disciples. And he answered and said unto them, I tell you that if these should hold their peace, the stones would immediately cry out. And when he came near, he beheld the city, and he wept over it, saying, If thou had known, even thou, at least in this thy day, the things which belong unto thy peace, but now they are hid from thine eyes. And to be completely honest with you, it is still hid from a lot of Jewish people's eyes. For the day shall come upon thee that thine enemies shall cast a trench about thee and compass thee round and keep thee on every side. And that happened around 70 AD when the Romans built an entire siege fortress around Jerusalem and destroyed it. Verse 44. And they shall lay thee even with the ground, thy children with thee, and shall not leave upon one stone upon another, because thou knewest not the time of thy visitation. That's all talking about the destruction of Jerusalem around 70 AD with the temple and all that. So that's when he rode in to Jerusalem. He is the Lamb. Jesus was the Lamb. Go to John 1:28. You're going to be jumping a lot. John 1:28. These are all the ways that correlate to the fulfillment of Passover, right? Crucified. He was the spotless lamb. It says, and these things were done in Bethabara beyond Jordan, where John was baptizing. Did I say John 1:28? Go to the next one.
I'm sorry?
Go to 29.
Oh, 29?
Yeah. Yes. And the next day John seeth Jesus coming unto him and saying, behold, the Lamb of God which taketh away the sins of the world. The cross represented the door that the Israelites put the lamb's blood on. Jesus is the door, and his blood was on the cross. John 10:9.
While we're going there, I've always correlated that the verse in the Old Testament, we had just read it about the side post and the
Yeah, because if you smash the sides together and pull the top one down, it makes a cross.
cross.
Yeah.
I
Yep. Yeah, that's a good way to remember it. John 10 verse 9. I am the door. This is Jesus speaking. By me, if any man enter in, he shall be saved, and shall go in and out and find pasture. Okay, now we're going to go on to the next feast. Is the
Really quick here, interesting fact, in Revelations, he says, I'm not, behold,
You stand at the door.
Not, but he's the door.
Yeah.
So he enters in ours, and we enter in him.
We're on to the Feast of Unleavened Bread. It is Hag Hamatzah, which literally translates into the Feast of Unleavened Bread. No different meaning there. That's in Exodus 12, verse 18.
The verses in the Old Testament are like this long, so I have to.
Oopsie. Okay, yeah. 12:18. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month, ye shall eat unleavened bread until the 20th day of the month at evening. Go through verse 20. 7 days shall there be no leaven found in your house. For whosoever eateth that which is leavened, even that soul shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether he be a stranger or born in the land.
That's how you know the Passover
The non-equal rate.
the communion cup could not have been alcohol,
Yeah,
Yep.
alcoholic wine.
because that requires leaven.
Exactly.
Ye shall eat nothing leavened. In all your habitations ye shall eat unleavened bread. And go to John 6, 31.
I didn't coincide with the harvest of the grapes, so that you wouldn't have to,
It was grape juice.
yeah, I would say you have to coincide with that harvest time.
So this feast was also fulfilled. There was a fulfillment of it. Because Jesus was the bread unleavened. Right? He was sin and spotless.
Didn't even say, he says, eat like,
Yeah,
because he says, oh, this offends you.
right.
We actually-
And I think this is that verse, actually. I think it is.
Eat my flesh and drink my blood.
Watch, yeah.
Because the leaven represented sin, so it couldn't be in the bread or in the blood.
And look, these are the people talking to him. He says, for our fathers did eat manna in the desert. As it is written, he gave them bread from heaven to eat. And then Jesus said unto them, verily, verily, I say unto you, Moses gave you not bread from heaven, but my Father gaveth you the true bread from heaven. Go through 35. For the bread of God is he which cometh down from heaven and giveth life unto the world. Then said they unto him, Lord, evermore give us this bread. And Jesus said unto them, I am the bread of life. He that cometh unto me shall never hunger, and he that believeth on me shall never thirst. 1 Corinthians 5, 7 through 9. Quick jumps, little passages. And get your typing on today. 1 Corinthians 5, 7 through 9. Purge out, therefore, the old leaven, that ye may be a new lump, as ye are unleavened. For even Christ, our Passover, is sacrificed for us. There's another thing pointing to him being the Passover, right? keep on, two more. Therefore, let us keep the feast, not with old leaven, neither with the leaven of malice or wickedness, but with unleavened bread of sincerity and truth. I wrote unto you in this epistle, not to company of fornicators. I don't think that needed to be, but okay. 2 Corinthians 5:21.
2 Corinthians?
2 Corinthians 5:21.
Same thing, just add 2 in the front.
Sure.
Yeah, 2 Corinthians 5.
21.
21. Whoa. It doesn't have 21 verses. 2 Corinthians 5?
Yeah, you're in first.
No, I'm in 2 Corinthians. I'll see it over here. There's 1 through 13.
Really?
Yeah, I clicked on 2 Corinthians. Whoa, never mind. Hang on. The 1 through 13 was from 1 Corinthians. But I typed 2 Corinthians and it just pulled up the first 13.
It's okay. Your pages were stuck together. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. All my pages were stuck together.
5:21.
Whoopsie.
Crazy digital pages.
Yeah.
All right. For he hath been made him to be sin for us, who knew no sin, that we might be made the righteousness of God in him.
Oh,
So a feast of unleavened bread was fulfilled. Now we're on to the Feast of First Fruits, or Yom Habdikorim. It's also called Rashit Quatzir, which means the beginning of a harvest. It literally means the day of the promise to come. And actually, the Feast of First Fruits is what we celebrate as Easter. It was fulfilled. Acts 26:23. Oh, I'm sorry. Go to Leviticus 23:9. We're talking about first fruits, where God instituted it at. Leviticus 23. You're going to be going to Leviticus 23 a lot.
gotcha.
Leviticus 23:9. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, we're going to be going through 14. Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, when ye come into the land which I give unto you, ye shall reap the harvest thereof. Then ye shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest unto the priest. It's the same one again, yeah. And he shall wave the sheaf before the Lord to be accepted for you. On the morrow after the Sabbath, the priest shall wave it. And ye shall offer that day, when ye wave the sheaf offering, a lamb without blemish of the first year for a burnt offering unto the Lord. And the meat offering thereof shall be 2/10 deal of fine flour mingled with oil, and offering made by fire unto the Lord for a sweet savor, and a drink offering thereof shall be of wine. One more. A fourth part of a hin. That's a measurement. Okay. So that's where first fruits comes from. Now go to the fulfillment of it in Acts 26:23. First fruits, 26:23. That Christ should suffer, that he should be the first that should rise from the dead, first fruit from the dead, that and should show light unto the people and to the Gentiles. Now jump to 1 Corinthians 15, 20 through 23. 1 Corinthians 15, 20 through 23. But now is Christ risen from the dead, and become the first fruits of them that sleep. For since by man came death, and by man came also the resurrection of the dead. For as in Adam all die, even so in Christ shall all be made alive. He had to be resurrected first, so that we could be resurrected. He is the first fruit. Okay. Next feast, the Feast of Shavuot, or we would say Pentecost, but it's actually the Feast of Weeks, and it literally translates to weeks. Shavuot is weeks. To say that's the plural. So if you say the singular is Shiva. So,
7 weeks.
right, they say it's the weeks because it's the 7 Sabbaths, and then that's the 50th day is yes. Leviticus 23:15. You need to have that one on a hotkey.
Yeah, there you go.
Leviticus 23:15, sorry. 23:15.
Okay.
And we're going to go through 21. And ye shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath, from the day that ye brought the sheaf of the wave offering, 7 Sabbaths shall be complete. Even unto the morrow after the 7th Sabbath ye shall number 50 days. And ye shall offer a new meat offering unto the Lord. And it's not talking about flesh meat.
Yeah.
Just so, because it is confusing. It's what it is going to be the wheat harvest at this point. Keep going, next. Right. And ye shall bring out of your habitation 2 wave loaves of 2 tenth deals, and they shall be of fine flour. They shall be baked with leaven. They are the first fruit unto the Lord. And ye shall offer with the bread 7 lambs without blemish of the first year, 1 young bullock, and 2 rams. They shall be for a burnt offering unto the Lord with thy meat offering. And their drink offerings, even an offering made by fire, a sweet savor unto the Lord. Through 21, right? Yeah. And then ye shall sacrifice 1 kid goat for a sin offering, and 2 lambs of the first year for a sacrifice of a peace offering. And the priest shall wave them with the bread of the first fruits for a wave offering before the Lord with the 2 lambs. They shall be holy to the Lord for the priests. And ye shall proclaim unto the selfsame day that it be an holy convocation unto you. Ye shall do no servile work therein, and it shall be a statute forever in all of your dwellings throughout all of your generations. It was, okay, Feast of Weeks, or Shavuot, or Pentecost. It is also believed to be the day that Moses received the Torah from God on Sinai. Because if you go in the Torah, in Exodus, they get to Sinai in the 3rd month, which is when this feast happens. So it doesn't say specifically, but it correlates, because they got the law in the Old Testament, and this one was fulfilled also go to Acts 2, we'll read 1 through 5. The Holy Spirit was given. So you had the law given in the Old Testament, and then you had the Spirit being given in the New Testament as the fulfillment of Pentecost, Shavuot, Acts 2, 1 through 5. Everybody can probably recite this by heart, practically.
Yes.
Or at least paraphrase it really well. And when the day of Pentecost, when the day of Shavuot came, was fully come, they had to count those weeks, right? They call it counting the Omer. That's what they call that. So they were all in one accord in one place.
Sorry.
Too many. And suddenly there came a sound from heaven as a rushing mighty wind, and it filled all of the house where they were sitting. And there appeared unto them cloven tongues like as of fire, and it sat upon each of them. And they were all filled with the Holy Ghost and began to speak with other tongues as the Spirit gave them utterance. And they that were dwelling at Jerusalem, Jews, devout men, out of every nation of heaven. Now, I'm going to bring this up now. There's 3 feasts they call them pilgrimage feasts. They were 3 feasts that you had to go to Jerusalem for. This was one of them, and that's why you had so many people there all these Jews came from all over these other nations with different tongues, right? Right. That's why they were there. Shavuot, or Pentecost, was one of those pilgrimage feasts. So was unleavened bread, and the 3rd is Sukkot. So, yeah, go ahead.
I just think about something like when Moses, the fire in the bush appeared to Moses and spoke to Moses like the fire. As it fell on him, they spoke with other tongues. So it's just kind of
Yeah. That could correlate there too. It sure could. So this was fulfilled. All of the spring feasts have been fulfilled. Now, we got 3 left. Try to knock them out quick. The fall feasts. The first one is the Feast of Trumpets. It is Yom Teruah. Literally translates as the day of shouting or blasting. Leviticus 23, verse 23. 23. And the Lord said unto Moses, saying, spake unto Moses, says, speak unto the children of Israel, in the 7th month, In the first day of the month, ye shall have a Sabbath, a memorial of blowing of trumpets, a holy convocation. Through 25. Yeah. Ye shall do no servile work therein, but ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. Wait, did you skip one?
No.
24?
Here's 23.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Okay, you're good.
25.
Good deal. So it's a very short description of it. It's a memorial. I would say this is, yes.
Quick question, it says, you shall have a Sabbath, on the first, in the seventh month, the first day of the month, you shall have a Sabbath. Just to understand, just because it's the first of the month, that doesn't mean it's gonna be a Sabbath as a Sabbath week.
Right, no. Wherever it falls, it's a Sabbath.
That's what
Yep.
I wanna know, like,
Yep.
it could be a Tuesday, it could be
Yeah.
a Wednesday.
It could be a Friday, and you can have a Sabbath. Or it can correlate and be a Sabbath on the Sabbath.
Right, I just wanna bring it back.
Right, yeah. Yeah, that doesn't mean that it falls on the seventh day. It could be, it's an extra Sabbath thrown in there. So like I said, it translates as a shouting or a blasting. Go to Exodus 19:6 for me. And it's to be done as a memorial for, there's a couple of things. As the trumpets sounded on Sinai. And this is very 19 verse 16. Sorry, I may have misspoke.
Yeah, that's okay. Gotcha.
Yes, so this is when, and it came to pass on the third day of the morning, there was thunders and lightnings and thick clouds upon the smoke, and the voice of a trumpet exceedingly loud, so that all the people that was in there in the camp trembled. Okay,
Wow.
so they blow that for that. Now go with me to Exodus 20, verse 18. I want to bring out something very interesting.
A thick cloud. Do y'all see that? A thick cloud.
Is this when he goes and talks to the people, and the people are afraid of?
That's a little bit after this, but yeah. No, that's good.
This is the second coming. Y'all don't see what I'm talking about?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Well, that's just anytime the Lord appears. Because it was God who was present on the mountain.
Right, but this is
The same
ultra specific to
description,
the second coming, so this is really cool.
Jump to chapter 20, verse 18 of Exodus. I want to bring out something that's kind of interesting.
Chapter 20.
Chapter 20.
Got it.
Okay. And all the people saw the thunderings and the lightnings and the noise of the trumpet and the mountain smoking, and when the people saw it, they removed and stood afar off. So, the interesting thing about this verse is that translated from Hebrew, you kind of get it in English, but it says that the people of Israel saw thunderings. And in Hebrew, it actually uses the word hakolot, voices. A sound so supernatural and loud that you could visibly see sound.
Like waves, probably.
See it. It's God. It's so loud and so supernatural that they saw. It translates as they saw the voices, which is, it's crazy. So another interesting thing about Yom Teruah. Oh, well, let me bring up this fact. Everybody says Rosh Hashanah. You will not find Rosh Hashanah anywhere in the Bible. It does not exist in there. It literally means head of the year, but that's from the Babylonian, post-Babylonian exile. It is in the biblical calendar, in the biblical way, it is Yom Teruah. It is the day of the Feast of Trumpets. But this is another interesting fact, that if you would go and ask any Israeli about the Feast of Trumpets or tell them Happy Yom Teruah, they would look at you like you were crazy. Yeah. It's because it has been hidden from them over 2,000 years of rabbinic tradition. They have hid the real name. And like I said, you won't find Rosh Hashanah in the Bible at all.
Would that be necessarily because it may, in fact, point to Christ? in
Yes,
some way?
it very well could. Yeah.
And
I mean,
more
yeah,
likely
yeah.
that's
Well, that's it, yeah. They've been trying to do all that stuff. They've been trying to mask things
Right.
for a long time. So,
Because Jesus is coming back at the sound of the last trump.
right.
It's at that time.
And it's like I mentioned, it was for a memorial of the trumpets of Sinai, but it's also the declaration for the Messiah's return. Go to 1 Thessalonians 4, verse 16.
1 Thessalonians.
This has not been fulfilled yet, by the way.
What happened to the trumpet?
the trumpet for Jesus' return. Yeah. Oh, we wouldn't exactly be that.
We didn't yet.
Oh,
Last trumpet.
yeah. So first, and it's, like I said, I think it's going to be to the degree of Sinai's trumpets that you will not be able to miss this thing. That they said they saw voices. Like if you translate it from Hebrew, it uses those words as they saw voices.
You know when you go outside and you see rain, you know it's raining?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that when they say, oh, Miranda's here, so we didn't get it.
So is this not observed by Hebrews?
Well, it is as Rosh Hashanah.
That's what, okay.
Yeah. Now they have. You got to remember now. Over the past 20 or 30 years, the Messianic community has exploded over there. It's exploding, and it's still growing constantly. So the true thing of Yom Teruah is being revitalized, if you will. So it is for the declaration of the Messiah's return, and it states in 1 Thessalonians 4:16, "For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout," which a teruah, "with the voice of an archangel, and with the trump of God, and the dead in Christ shall rise first." On to the sixth.
Okay, really
Yes,
quick.
go for it.
This is actually broken down to three specific, separate things.
Yep.
I've always correlated his shout as the trumpet, but truth be said, it's really, as it says, with the voice, descend from heaven, here it is, with a shout, one, his shout, his own voice, with the voice of the archangel, and that would be the archangel probably shouting too, and with the trump of God. I mean, it would be like Jesus, an archangel,
And-
a trumpet.
And that correlates.
Three sounds.
If you go back to the actual Hebrew word translated in Exodus 20, it's a plural voices.
Yeah.
There's
See,
three.
That's what I'm saying. I've seen
So-
three, which would be awesome to hear Jesus be like, yeah. Like a victory.
Right.
I don't know if it's gonna be awesome. I think you're gonna wanna hide behind a rock.
Well, I'm not saying for the righteous.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, for the righteous, it's the bridegroom is coming back for his bride.
I understand, but like, if you think, okay, when Moses got on the boat and he saw all the souls dying, I mean, he was probably happy he was on the boat, but I'm sure he was probably sad.
Oh yeah.
No,
The
yeah.
shout won't necessarily. I'm not saying it would be necessary.
I think it's
The
gonna
voice,
be
but-
like when a volcano explodes and you get that shockwave through the atmosphere. And it's like,
You're going to see voices. You're going to see voices.
Voices, yeah.
So we got two more
It would be-
feasts.
Let's say this. It
okay,
would
baby,
be
stop slowing
powerful.
down.
Yeah.
We're all talking. That's it. That's rude. It would, like I said, it would be powerful.
Yes. That's understatement. It's going to be. Okay, so we're on to the Day of Atonement, and that is Yom Kippur, and it literally translates as the Day of Atonement. So, Leviticus, now I'm not going to read all of Leviticus 16, but Leviticus 16 is the very broken down, detailed version of the entire ritual they had to go through on Yom Kippur. But go to Leviticus 23, which is a little bit slimmer down of a version, verse 26 through 32. All of Leviticus 23 is all of the feasts given out in one chapter. It's a good reference. But if you want a complete detailed version of Yom Kippur, go to Leviticus 16. Here we go on the short version. "And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Also, on the 10th day of the 7th month," this is 10 days after Yom Teruah, "there shall be a day of atonement. It shall be a holy convocation unto you, and ye shall afflict your souls, and offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. And ye shall do no servile work in that same day, for it is a day of atonement, to make an atonement for you before the Lord your God. And for whatsoever soul it be that shall not be afflicted in that same day, he shall be cut off from among his people. And whatsoever soul it be that doeth any work in that same day, that same soul shall be destroyed from among his people. And ye shall do no manner of work. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations in all your dwellings." I think we got one more.
Yeah.
Yep. "And it shall be unto you a Sabbath of rest," which is funny because Sabbath or Shabbat translates into rest. So you get a rest of rest. And ye shall afflict your souls in the 9th day of the month at evening. Why? Because the 10th day starts at evening on the 9th. From evening unto evening you shall celebrate your Sabbath. You got to remember, that's where it gets confusing with those starting at sundown. So there's the short version of Yom Kippur. And go to Hebrews 9:12. I'm calling this partially fulfilled. And you'll see why in a second. (9:12) of Hebrews states, "Neither the blood of bulls and goats and blood of goats and calves, but by his own blood," talking about Jesus, "he entered into once the holy place and attained eternal redemption for us." Yom Kippur was to get atonement for the year. Jesus did it for all of eternity. So it's that once fulfillment. The reason why I'm saying this is a partial fulfillment is because, yes, he gave us the atonement. If you believe and trust in him, right? If you've given your life to him, it is a day of atonement for you. But it is a day of judgment for those who are not. If you've placed your faith in the Messiah, then it will be the greatest day of your life. If you have not, it will be the worst day. And in tradition, those 10 days leading up to Yom Kippur were days of awe, they call them, or the days of repentance. So Yom Kippur is kind of like, think of those days of awe as the jury going into their little room to talk about the verdict. And on the Day of Atonement, they come out, say, okay, yeah, he trusted in Jesus, atonement for you. Oh, he didn't? Judgment for you. So I think it's partially fulfilled is that we have redemption today because he did bring his blood to the altars of heaven, to the altar in heaven, and if you trust in him, you have that atonement. But for people who don't, it's not going to be a good day. Starting on back on September 20th, just a few days ago, this last festival has started at 10 a.m. Jerusalem time, 6 p.m. our time. That is the Feast of Tabernacles, or Sukkot. It literally translates as tabernacles or booths. Sukkot is the plural version. A singular version would be called a sukkah. When they make a booth, they would make a sukkah. Leviticus 23, verse 34. We're almost done. 34 through 44. Leviticus 23, 34 through 44. Yep. Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, in the 15th day of the 7th month, this is 5 days after the Day of Atonement, shall be a feast of tabernacles for 7 days unto the Lord. And on the first day shall be a holy convocation, and you shall do no servile work therein. 7 days ye shall offer offerings made by fire unto the Lord, and on the 8th day shall be a holy convocation unto you. And ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. It is a solemn assembly. So you had 7 days, and then you had an 8th day extra. Yeah, one more. Keep going. You shall do no servile work therein on that 8th day. These are the feasts of the Lord, which we shall proclaim to be holy convocations, to offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord, a burnt offering and a meat offering, a sacrifice and a drink offerings, everything upon his day. Besides the Sabbaths of the Lord, and besides your gifts, and besides all of your vows, besides all of your freewill offerings which you give unto the Lord. Also in the 15th day, this is a little bit of a reiteration of what we talked about just a second ago in the chapter. So also on the 15th day of the 7th month, when you gather in the fruit of the land, this is why it's also called the Feast of the Ingathering. This is the harvest that comes at the end of the year. You shall keep the feast unto the Lord 7 days, and the first day shall be a Sabbath. And on the 8th day shall be a Sabbath. And here's what you were talking about, Brother Wayne. And ye shall take unto you on the first day the boughs of goodly trees, branches of palm trees, and boughs of thick trees, and willows of the brook, and ye shall rejoice unto the Lord for 7 days. Interesting fact, this is the only feast that God says that you're going to rejoice in. Keep going. And ye shall keep it a feast unto the Lord 7 days in the year, and it shall be a statute forever in your generations, and ye shall celebrate it in the 7th month. And this is like the second time he said celebrate, by the way. Keep going.
And it's the most difficult and unpleasant one sometimes.
And ye shall dwell in booths 7 days. All the Israelites that were born, all that are Israelites born shall dwell in booths. Keep going. That your generation may know that I made the children of Israel dwell in booths. This is all for remembrance of the Exodus. To remember what they went through. When I brought them out of the land of Egypt, I am the Lord your God. One more. And Moses declared unto the children of Israel the feast of the Lord. This concludes chapter 23, which actually, like I said, talks about all the feasts. We're not going to read all of this because if you go to John chapter 7, this account talks about Jesus going up to Jerusalem to celebrate Sukkot, the whole thing. If you want to read Jesus in Sukkot, go read John chapter 7. And like I mentioned, it is the only commandment that is the only feast that is specifically commanded to be joyous and to celebrate in. I'm calling this one a partial fulfillment too. Go to Luke chapter, well, we're not going to read all this. Luke chapter 2, Jesus' birth. He came to tabernacle with the people. So that is kind of a fulfillment. There's a second fulfillment to this one, though. The complete fulfillment will be realized at the marriage supper of the Lamb for those who have their faith in the Messiah. But it'll be everlasting torment to those who have not placed their faith in the Messiah. So, like I said, that Day of Atonement could be a day of atonement for you or a day of judgment for you. And when Sukkot hits, is it going to be you at the marriage supper of the Lamb or you in everlasting contempt? So, where will your tabernacle be for eternity? And that is what I've got.
And Sukkot's the only one that is still going to be observed.
That's Zechariah 14:6, I think.
Yeah, after the return of Christ.
After he returns, it's going to be the one that it says that everybody must go up to Jerusalem to celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles. If you don't get no rain.
That's a good Jerusalem, huh?
Yeah, it's the only it's the only one that specifically says it's going to continue. Not to say that the other ones won't be remembered, but So this is not an exhaustive study by any stretch of the imagination, but it's an overview. Hopefully, y'all got something out of that. It was a lot, and it was a lot compacted, but so you learn a lot about our calendar, a lot about their calendar, right?
Yeah, because you squeeze the Gregarian calendar, Jewish calendar, Lunar calendar, solar calendar, Babylonian,
The Babylonian stuff.
Just a
Let's
couple
see,
thousand
feasts,
years at the
tabernacles.
Right, and like I said, I stopped at. You have the Gregarian calendar. It was based off of the Julian calendar, which was based off of another. I didn't want to go that deep down the rabbit hole, because like I said, sometimes the Romans were like, we're going to have 10 days in a week, so they do some crazy stuff.
It would be a funny response next time someone asks, "Hey, what day is it?" And you're like, "Which one? The Julian calendar?" Or the Julian calendar?